Andy Warhol. You know the name, you know the soup cans, you definitely know the wigs. But how did a commercial illustrator from Pittsburgh become, well, arguably the most important artist of the 20th century? How did he completely redefine what art could even be? All right, let's get into it.
To really wrap your head around Warhol's impact, let's just start with the money. In 2022, his portrait, Shot Sage Blue Marilyn, sold for an absolutely jaw-dropping $195 million. That's the most ever paid for a work by an American artist. So you have to wonder, how did his work get this iconic?
Well, the answer really starts with the man himself and his almost spooky ability to see the future. This quote, which he made famous, basically predicted our entire modern world of influencers and viral trends. He was describing social media before the internet even existed. But the story behind the words, that reveals an artist who was always playing chess while everyone else was playing checkers. To understand the pop art legend, we first have to meet the person he used to be, a super successful commercial artist. Because the decision he made to leave that all behind was a deliberate, revolutionary leap that changed the art world forever.
So before he was Andy Warhol, the brand, he was Andrew Warhol Jr., the son of working-class immigrants in Pittsburgh. He studied commercial art, and in 1949, he packed his bags and moved to New York City to try and make a name for himself. This is a world away from the glamorous, detached persona he would later create. And you know what? He was incredibly successful at it. Throughout the 1950s, Warhol was one of New York's top commercial illustrators. His unique blotted line technique for brands like I. Miller shoes was everywhere. It was whimsical, it was personal, it was hand-drawn. But then, in the 1960s, he made a hard pivot. He threw all that away, embracing machine-like reproduction and subjects you could find in any grocery store. And this shift was a total rejection of everything that had made him famous. I mean, look at this. It's night and day, right? He abandoned the delicate, artsy style that made him a star in advertising for a cold, repetitive, machine-made aesthetic. He wasn't just changing his subject, he was changing the very meaning of an artist's touch. So what on earth caused this huge change? Well, believe it or not, frustration. By 1961, Warhol felt like his art just wasn't original, so he paid a friend $50 for some brutally honest advice. Just paint what you love most. His answer? Money. And that's what led him to silk screening, a commercial printing technique, a way to mechanically reproduce images just like printing dollar bills. And not long after that, he created this. 32 canvases, one for each flavor of Campbell soup. He took one of the most mundane, mass-produced items in American life and put it on a gallery wall. He claimed he ate it for lunch every single day for 20 years. By putting the everyday on a pedestal, he was forcing the art world to ask a really uncomfortable question. What even is art? And he just kept pushing that question. In 1964, he came out with his Brillo boxes. He made sculptures that look exactly like the real cardboard cartons you'd find stacked in a supermarket. So, is it a sculpture, or is it just a box? He was blurring that line between art and commerce until it basically vanished. Now, the epicenter of this whole revolution was his studio, famously known as the Factory. The whole place was covered in silver paint and aluminum foil. And it wasn't just a place to make art. No way. It was this cultural hub where musicians, artists, drag queens, and this rotating cast of Warhol superstars all came together to create films, art, and an entirely new kind of scene. For years, the Factory was this chaotic, wide-open, creative space. But one traumatic event would serve as a brutal turning point in Warhol's life, and it would change the path of his art forever. The date was June 3rd, 1968. Inside the Factory, Andy Warhol was at work when an acquaintance walked in and shot him. The shooter was a radical feminist writer named Valerie Solanas, who had appeared in one of his films. And when she turned herself into the police, she gave this chilling reason for why she did it.
Warhol was critically wounded. It's frankly a miracle he survived. After 2 months in the hospital, the physical damage was immense. He had to wear a surgical corset for the rest of his life just to hold his organs in place. But the shooting didn't just scar his body. It completely rewired his brain and his art.
After the trauma of the shooting, a new Warhol emerged. The avant-garde artist, who used to thrive on chaos, transformed into a really savvy businessman who craved order. He started turning his name and his image into a global brand. You could see this change most clearly at the Factory. What was once this open, experimental, free-for-all art house became, in his own words, a regular office. Security got a lot tighter, and the focus shifted from pure creation to commerce. The party, for a little while anyway, was over.
And throughout the 70s and 80s, Warhol fully leaned into this new role as an entrepreneur. He founded Interview magazine, became a permanent fixture at Studio 54, and started focusing on these really lucrative portrait commissions for the rich and famous. He even started collaborating with the next generation of art stars, like Jean-Michel Basquiat.
This picture really says it all. It captures his complete transformation. Here's Andy Warhol at the White House with President Jimmy Carter. The underground artist from the factory was now a certified mainstream establishment celebrity. But behind that very public persona, there was, of course, a private man. And he absolutely adored his dachshunds, Archie and Amos. He would take them almost everywhere he went, to parties, to fancy restaurants, even on trips. It's this softer, more humanizing glimpse of the man under the iconic silver wig. So, after a life of constant transformation, from illustrator to pop artist to celebrity brand, what's the final word on Andy Warhol's legacy? His death came as a complete shock. On February 22, 1987, Warhol died at age 58 from complications after what was supposed to be routine gallbladder surgery. The world was just stunned by the sudden loss of a cultural titan. But his value, both culturally and financially, has only soared since his death. They call him the bellwether of the art market, which is a fancy way of saying his work sets the tone for everyone else. And his pieces just continue to shatter auction records, proving his relevance is as strong as ever. So at the end of the day, why does Warhol still matter so much? Because his ideas are everywhere you look. He didn't just challenge the definition of art. He blew it to pieces. He merged art with commerce when that was a huge taboo. He was obsessed with celebrity in the media. And maybe most importantly, he turned the artists themselves into the ultimate product, the ultimate brand. Which brings us right back to his most famous prediction. In today's world, where everyone is building a personal brand, chasing viral moments, and curating their lives online, you kind of have to ask, did Andy Warhol just see our future more clearly than anyone? And are we all just living in it now, hoping for our 15 minutes?